CBS News color coverage of the flight of Apollo 10 continues. Here again is Walter Cronkite.
The United States at this moment has two manned spacecraft circling the moon. The Lunar Module, which is now on a path which will take it to within 10 miles of the moon's surface at 5:32 Eastern Daylight Time, or approximately 25 minutes from now, and the command module hovering overhead at 69 miles an hour, keeping a close eye on the progress of the lunar module as Tom Stafford and Eugene Cernan plunge down there toward that closest look of the moon that man will yet have had. They at one point will be separated by 420 miles. A little earlier, Leo was talking about the separation in nautical miles, the statute miles, the miles we use here generally on Earth. It'll be 420 miles. That takes place about 15 minutes before the lunar module stages. And that is when the lunar module separates and the ascent stage with the two astronauts aboard leaves the descent stage to rendezvous again with the command module. That staging takes place at 7:33 this evening, Eastern Daylight Time. It's now just 3 minutes and 45 seconds before that acquisition of signal again, and the spacecraft are in touch with the ground. It is be expected at that time that we will get confirmation, hopefully we will get confirmation, that the descent orbit burn took place on schedule at 4:35 our time, or 35 minutes ago. That was the burn on the far side of the moon that would have slowed the lunar module so that it drops down to that point just 10 miles above the moon's surface, which, as we have said before, occurs at 5:32, and it's now 5:10 Eastern Daylight Time. With me here is our guest science fictionist, perhaps the world's most distinguished one, I would say, Arthur C. Clarke. I give you that accolade that has been bestowed by a lot of others before me, so I'm just being a good reporter and not flattering you with that, I don't think.
Thank you, Walter.
What so far in these 4 days of flight have surprised you most, would you say?
Well, I think the smoothness with which everything has gone, even this minor trouble, I hope it's minor trouble, with the depressuring of the tunnel between the two spacecraft. This, I hope, will not be serious, but it does indicate they were very wise in planning to do this type of intermediate operation, not attempting to land on this mission. I'm sure that everyone is very happy they are doing this and not going down to the moon on this trip.
Yes, there was some discussion, you know, earlier in the Manned Space Center, and I think even more particularly among laymen, lay experts on moon flight, saying, why go with this flight? Why not go ahead and land once you're 10 miles above the moon? Well, as we know, there's some very good reasons for that. One of the reasons being that they do not have to commit that radar and the full landing system on this flight. They are a little bit lighter. They can go down to that stage with less fuel aboard, just the amount of fuel it takes to get back from 50,000 feet, and that's quite a considerable reduction because those first few feet off are even more difficult than the latter stages, I take it. Arthur, do any of the troubles they've had resemble anything that you've foreseen in your science fiction in the past?
Well, in a way, yes. It occurred to me that if they have trouble redocking, we might have this situation which I've often described in fiction when men have got to cross space without a spacesuit, going from one spacecraft to another, which is theoretically possible, but I sincerely hope they don't have to try it on this mission or any future missions. One day someone will have to do this.
They're prepared, of course, for a small crossing. One man carries a 4-hour supply of oxygen and a full pressurization, so all this equipment in a portable life support system. The other has a 30-minute supply of oxygen, and they both have spacesuits, which would make it possible for them to transfer from one spacecraft to the other if they could not dock. It would be mighty tricky, and nobody would like to try it. But it's part of the thing that they were testing. Rusty Schweickart was testing on Apollo 9. Each of these phases has been tested as we go along. Of course, the lunar module is getting its first test in moon environment right on this flight, and only its second test in space. We're supposed to get that acquisition of signal in about 15 seconds from now, and we'll keep tuned in here, but we do have mission control piped into us, and you will hear it just as soon as we do when we get any word from mission control. They are silent at the moment, waiting for that acquisition of signal. The first spacecraft to report in will be the command module. It's a little bit ahead of the lunar module now, and we will hear first from it.
Charlie Brown, over. Right, reading you 5-5, Charlie Brown.
And there they have Charlie Brown.
Houston, Charlie Brown, over. Roger, reading you 5-5, Charlie Brown, over. Houston, Charlie Brown. Charlie Brown, Houston, I'm reading you 5-5.
Apparently John Young and Charlie Brown is not receiving Houston yet. He keeps calling them, but they're...
Houston, Charlie Brown, over. Houston, Charlie Brown, how do you read on that gate, over?
Houston's trying to raise Charlie Brown, although...
All locked up on them, Tom, but I just don't read them. Charlie Brown, Houston, over. Roger, read your last clear. Snoopy was go for DOI. Roger, great. Sounds great. We copy.
Charlie Brown reports, John Young reports that the lunar module did perform its burn to drop into the low point.
He'll fill you in when he gets to you, but at 6. At 6 miles, he was doing 65 feet a second. On my 6 miles from me, he was doing 65 feet a second. At 3.8 miles, he was doing 73 feet a second. I think that confirms his burn.
In other words, John Young is saying that according to his radar information, computer information...
Down there, the rocks, mumbling about the boulders and things right now. Roger, Charlie Brown. I saw it rise.
Saying the lunar module has slowed down.
They they're looking up at the horizon now. Roger.
You should be hearing shortly directly from the lunar module, from Snoopy. This simulation shows what the men in the spacecraft are seeing at this point. They are seeing the Earth rising, it would appear, over the horizon of the moon.
Hello, Houston, Houston, this is Snoopy. Right, Snoop, go ahead. We is going, we is down among them, Charlie. Roger, I hear you weaving your way up the freeway. Can you give me a post-burn report, over? Yeah, as soon as I get my breath. Okay, our burn was on time. Our residuals were -0.1, -0.3, and -0.5, and that was the residuals from the dip burn. We did not tell anything else. We're at 61.2 by 9.2, and the AX has us at an 8.6. Roger, Snoopy. We copy all the residuals, and it looks like we're all go. Your dips is looking good, and it's go. Over.
So his orbit gives him a 9.2 nautical mile.
We just saw Earth rise, and it's got to be magnificent. Right, we copy.
Right, you can also tell Jack Smith that there's enough boulders around here to fill up Galveston Bay, too.
He's copying, Tom.
Their orbit.
The only trouble is, we're stripping lots of film for him. Spacecraft's looking good, and there are no problems, Charlie, except it'd be nice to be around here more often. Roger, we copy. All your systems are looking good to us. Did you get your dips pressure back, over?
Dips is the...
negative, but the dip burn was smoothed out very well when we throttled up. Roger, we got a good...
Dips is a descent propulsion system.
The dips is go for phasing.
Ellipses go for staging for their separation, which will come on their next orbit of the moon at about this point, a little later, about 2 hours from now. Their orbit, according to their computer readout, which they just gave to the ground, would put them 11 miles above the moon's surface, a little bit higher than had been planned, which will mean they did not break quite as much, by a few feet per second, as they had planned. But that is a very small error, certainly, with everything else going so beautifully. They're moving at about 3,700 miles an hour now and are plunging down toward the Earth's surface. The impression to them must be of very rapidly closing with the moon. They get to their lowest point just 14 minutes from now.
Snoop, Houston, there'll be no update on the phasing pad. Everything's looking really good.
Okay, good. We'll be picking up our landing radar test and taking pictures here, and it's a fantastic sight.
That's John Stafford, of course. Tom Stafford.
You do have different shades of browns and grays here. And like the volcanism, there's also a pure white near the edge, and at the bottom is black, and we see some large boulders that are black and gray.
Roger, Snoop, we copy.
Man has never been so close to the moon. Few men, of course, have been to the moon, but in 2 flights, this is the closest. It will remain such until
over the Smythe
man lands there, perhaps in July. They have about an hour and 5 minutes here in which they will be in touch with the Earth before they disappear on the far side again. During this time, they will reach that low point. They will get that good look at the landing site. And then a few minutes after that, at 5:47, they will fire that descent propulsion system engine again, this time to speed them up so that they will go into a high orbit 224 miles out on the far side of the moon next time.
Houston, can you see them down there among the boulders? Over. I saw them about 14 miles, but then I turned this thing over to the CMC to let it do an auto maneuver, and it lost them. Right.
It's John Young from
I
Charlie
was
Brown.
tracking them just manually. I don't see them anymore. I'm going to let it update it with a little radar, a little range, and see if that brings it in. Roger, Charlie Brown. We copy out.
In other words, John Young's going to use his radar and his computers to get aligned with the lunar module and then see if he can see them out the window again. It must be very hard to see down there against the moon and at the distance that they are apart at this time. John Young, 69 miles high. They, at this point, must be around.
Hello, Houston, this is Snoop. It looks like this landing radar is doing real good.
Roger, Snoop. We roger that. Over.
That's one of the main tests of this flight, as to whether that landing radar does work well.
Have a lock on you, even early.
You see the landing gear deployed there.
And straight up ahead, you can see we're going to go from the highlands over into the bar area.
In other words, they're just passing over the last range of the large craters, mountains, into the Tranquility, Sea of Tranquility.
Right, Snoop. Over.
We're inclined to call it Mare Tranquillitatis. It's Mare by the Earthmen's lingo. and properly so, I would assume. The Sea of Tranquility, one of the large, reasonably flat areas, almost desert-like areas, broken by just a few of these craters, pits that have come either from volcanic action or from meteorite impact. The landing area is at the far end of the Sea of Tranquility, giving them a chance to swoop over the comparatively flat areas to make their landing on Apollo 11. At 50,000 feet, they are well above the highest ranges of the mountains and crater rims of the moon's surface. And if all goes well, should be in no danger of impacting any of them, crashing into them.
Houston, I got the ascent batteries connected at this time.
Roger, we see that. Thanks, Snoop. Over.
Snoopy.
There were so many things to do in such a short time.
Gene Cernan reporting that they're pretty busy.
Coming up on 70 degrees east longitude now.
Snoop, Houston, your ascent batteries look good. Out.
Roger.
They're just about now over an area called the Mare Spumans. Over to their right is the large Mare Crisium, and over to the left, the huge crater Langrenus, which we got a good picture of last night in their first television transmission. We do not have television on this pass. The command pilot, John Young.
It looks like we're getting so close. All we have to do is put the sail hook down and we're there.
John Young, the command pilot, is too busy for television at this time.
Hey, Snoop, Air Force guys don't talk that way.
Well, I did fly an F-4. That's one on the one time. Even though it was an Air Force base. Okay, we're coming right over to the edge of the Maria. Now, it's really smooth out here compared to...
Roger, Snoop, we have you, should be approaching San Tarantius anytime soon.
Roger.
Okay, Houston, I got him in the optic now.
Hey, great show.
Fantastic.
Hey, great show, Charlie Brown.
By golly, John Young was able to pick them up again. He's looking at them, eyeballing them. You heard Mission Control tell them they're just approaching the Sea of Tranquility now, one of the smaller areas, just before the Sea of Tranquility.
We can tell that this area is definitely lower than that highland area. This is a whole general area.
Okay, Snoop, could you coming up on expected surface washout? Can you comment on that? Over.
Their onboard computer showed that 10.58 miles, or 55,440 feet, would be their low point. A backup computer calculates it at 9.89 miles, which is almost precisely on their path as predicted.
I bet it looks like they're really hauling the mail.
Huh? Didn't do anything. Surprisingly enough, Charlie, it really doesn't look like we're moving too fast down here. It's a very nice, pleasant pace.
Right.
The practice exactly like when Del Dick is just like we went out and practiced the other morning in Florida as far as the Rowdy Perry made us about the same.
Copy, Snoop, out.
Looks like we're coming up on my side on Taranches G, and I believe Tom's got Taranches H right there on his side. Things come out on the horizon differently. They seem to come over the horizon and be much closer to you down here than up there at 60 miles. And again, the craters in this area are craters that are dug out of the surface, and not craters that are flowing back above the surface. The high rims are very low flat rims.
They should be at this point.
You're dropping out. Your voice faded out. We're standing by.
They should be at this point just 4 minutes from their lowest point, 3 minutes.
43 minutes, 20 seconds.
3 minutes from their low point, and they should be just coming over the Sea of Tranquility now. They should be about 270 miles at this point from the landing site.